This week on the Virtual Skeptics, the music is too low. Bob takes a chill pill. He may have accidentally joined a cult. Barb has a cause for conclusions. And Tim is not here, apparently. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and I am not depressed. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yay.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, go away now. Bye-bye, music. Bye-bye. Thank you. I keep hitting the wrong one. Anyway, hi there. This is the Virtual Skeptics. I'm this guy, and these are these guys. First off, we have Bob Blaskowitz. He's a conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Swift blog contributor. And Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight. That's a new one at skeptic.com. Oh yeah, that was on last week. That's a cool blog. Barb Drescher, former psychology instructor. I had the G there. And blogger at ICBS Everywhere and contributor to numerous skeptical projects, including Insights at skeptic.com and The Odds Must Be Crazy, which I like to say that way. For now on, I'm going to say it that way. So this is Virtual Skeptics you're watching. Hi. We're going to do stuff, and you can watch if you want, and you can get involved. The Q&A app is live, so if you're on Google+, you can ask us questions on the Q&A app thing, and you can tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics, and you can comment on the YouTube channel as usual. So, up first, we do our trivia question. Who wants to do the trivia question, which is not on my sheet? Do we have a trivia question this week? Did Tim give us a trivia question?
I don't know.
No, he said he was going to, but I think he may have not. So the trivia question this week is, where the crap is Tim?
Where the heck is Tim?
I don't even know the answer to that one.
Yeah,
I know the answer.
I have an answer, and I think it's the correct one.
What's your answer, Barb?
Not here.
Technically true.
Could you be more specific and put it in the form of a question?
Although he
A
could
positive
be sitting
answer.
on a computer where he normally is during this time, and I wouldn't know it.
Yeah, I think that's a category error. I'm not sure. Okay, so the true question is, where's Tim? And if you're the first person to tweet that's not Tim. We'll get
he doesn't watch this show.
We'll get live coverage of us sending a team out to catch him and bring him back. I'm just saying. The secondary quiz, which actually is the only quiz this week, is what the heck's on the monitors behind me? These are hard ones.
Wait, it's Tim.
I actually finally think I have them.
No, it's not Tim.
I finally think I recognize one of them.
Yeah? You think so?
Yeah, and I never
Which
get
one,
them.
right or
have at
left?
least
Never
one
get
answer.
them.
Yeah, I never get them
The
either.
one on my left.
Yeah? You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. These are really tough ones, and the one answer that's already come in is wrong. So
What, on Twitter?
this is the Q&A app, which is actually not a question. I guess
It's for Q's.
I'll take it as a question, and the answer is
No, you're wrong.
so. There you go.
What is wrong?
What is wrong? Okay.
That answer.
Did we do everything we had to just do to start? I guess we did. Now, first up is Barb, and preparing for this, all I got was a link to an article that's not posted yet, so I have absolutely no idea what you're going to talk about.
It's posted now. Well, you've got the title of it, right?
Yeah, I rearranged the title for you.
Okay. Well, hopefully, I'm a little afraid of doing this because I'm afraid of twisting some people into knots. But I'm going to talk about, skeptics are really fond of that term, correlation does not prove cause.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really fond of the variant that's more correct, which is correlation does not imply cause.
Yeah.
But I always cringe a little bit because I'm concerned about that. That's kind of an oversimplification, and I think that a lot of skeptics maybe don't understand that correlation is necessary to consider cause. So I want to talk a little bit about how we do what does demonstrate cause, or what does prove cause. Nothing proves anything, by the way, of course. That's a different conversation. So we've talked about on the show before. We talked about spurious correlations. There's a great website about that, and most people are pretty familiar with the pirates and global warming correlation. You know that we need more pirates because the more pirates we have, the less global warming we will have. I don't know.
Wait,
if
that's not causation? Damn it!
That's correlation.
All that
Correlation.
But all that investment in pirateware it's not wasted. You could go wear it to Dragon Con or something. But let's talk about a little bit about what does infer cause, or what allows us to infer cause, and the problem of not being able to infer cause if we don't have a correlation.
Okay.
So one of the classic examples that we use in psychology when we teach it all the time is, bring up the first slide. You may be familiar with this one, that ice cream sales and violent crime are correlated. Yes. So that's a correlation that clearly we could talk about some of the causes. Perhaps, eating ice cream makes people want to kill other people.
No, killing people makes you want to eat ice cream.
The sugar rush, but you got ahead of me because I was going to talk about
because it's almost like
somebody's doing magic tricks or something.
Well, because obviously the people are committing violent crimes with ice cream because they're at the same time. There's not one.
That's a problem too, because then you don't have what we call temporal precedence, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But there are usually one of two problems with causal conclusions that people draw strictly from correlations. One is that there might be a causal relationship, but they don't really know the direction of cause. So, like, the sugar high could be causing it, maybe milk allergies, or it could be that people are really hungry right after they commit a violent crime. It's the violent crime makes them want to eat ice cream.
That's how it is with me.
The other problem is probably the bigger one here, and that is anybody? There are other variables involved. The old third variable problem. So if you think about it, you can probably come up with the most likely culprit here.
Aliens.
Summer.
Yeah.
Summer is evil.
It's temperature. So, the heat causes people to buy ice cream, and the heat causes people to go a little nuts. So, how do we know then that something causes something else if we're looking at correlations? And you see these things all the time, especially in life sciences and in social sciences, where we find a link between this and that, and it's correlational, and so how do we know cause? Because we can claim cause in a lot of cases. So let's talk a little bit about cause and effect. First of all, the definition of cause. This is going to sound a little circular, but we're going to define cause as a condition under which an effect occurs. Okay? And that's going to be a little important.
Really broad, yeah.
Yeah, it is broad, but trying to bring up the slides here on my end.
Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, because I'm not sure where the next one is. Hang on. So,
an
effect then is probably a more important thing to define at this point, and that is that it's the difference between what happened or what is, and what would have happened if the cause wasn't present. Okay.
All right.
So, what we're doing is measuring. When we do research, we're measuring differences. We're comparing two different things. An effect is always a comparison between two or more things. Okay? And a cause is the one thing that could have obviously made the effect happen. Causal conditions, and this is for the next slide. Causal conditions. So we're talking about the condition under which something occurs. Causal conditions can be necessary. So in other words, a necessary cause is something which, let me actually just read this. If the effect cannot occur without the condition, then the condition is necessary. Okay? If the effect can't occur without the condition is necessary. Here's a good example.
Okay.
To receive credit for a course, for taking a course, you must be enrolled in the course. Okay? This is a necessary condition. You can't receive credit if you weren't enrolled for it.
Or
Right?
have admin access on the website.
Well, then you can enroll yourself. You have to be enrolled. So
That's a definition
whether or not
of
you
enrollment.
attend the course is not an issue. I mean, it's not a sufficient condition. Causal conditions can be necessary, they can be sufficient, they can be necessary and sufficient, or they can be neither necessary nor sufficient. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So a necessary condition is one that the effect can't occur without the cause. It's not a sufficient condition, the example I gave you, because you also have to pass the course to get credit for it. But it is a necessary one. So a sufficient condition is if the effect always occurs when the condition is met. So the example I like to give is decapitation results in death. Okay, no, don't go there.
Okay.
Go back.
I'm not showing that yet. I was just looking ahead.
So it's a condition which
Clearly,
if it
I'm not going to
occurs,
pass the course.
the effect will always happen. Okay, so if somebody removes your head, you will die. It's not a necessary condition, though, for death to occur, because there are lots of ways to die. You could jump off a building, you could be poisoned, you could die of old age, you could have a heart attack, whatever. But if somebody cuts off your head, you're definitely going to die. So it's a sufficient condition. A necessary and sufficient condition is one where the effect must always occur when the condition is met, and it must never occur unless the condition is met. So most of the examples here are things that are definitional, like to be a parent, you must have a child. If you have a child, then you are a parent. Those are definitions, right? There's also things like if you win the lottery, you have to present a ticket with the correct numbers to the appropriate authorities. If you do that, legally they have to declare you a winner. So it's necessary and sufficient. But the tricky one is the things that are not necessary or sufficient. And these are the things that we're mostly dealing with. A cause can be neither necessary nor sufficient if it meets some other conditions, and that's the next one, the next slide.
Okay.
If it is an insufficient, non-redundant, unnecessary part of a sufficient condition, or an anus condition.
She
I
said
didn't
anus.
say anus.
I had that, and then I took an e-congestion.
Yes, I have an anus condition.
Okay, so are we ready to talk about anus condition?
Insufficient, non-redundant, unnecessary part of a sufficient condition.
So it's not necessary, it's not sufficient, but it is a non-redundant, it is a non-redundant part of a sufficient condition.
But is it an outlier?
No. It can be, but we don't know. So
Is this going to be on the test?
yes, everything's
have
like
to read
enrolled
this?
in this course.
I think I've got this course. Jeez.
all right. So
I'm not going to get credit for this.
most causes, you're not enrolled in the course. Most causes are inus conditions. Most of the causes that we deal with in social sciences are inus conditions. Most of the causes that we deal with in life sciences and health, things like that, they're inus conditions. And it's actually really hard to test for some of these, but let's figure out how we identify them. So let's look at some questions. Just to clarify this, some possible causes. You have a forest fire. So what are some possible causes? We have a lit match from a tossed car. We have aliens. We have a lightning strike, a smoldering campfire, anything else?
Laser wielding robots.
That's actually probably a sufficient cause. None of these things are necessary conditions for a forest fire to start, though. Forest fires can start in other ways, and you just gave me some more. We can come up with all kinds, right?
Okay.
So science assumes that
Like
all
think
effects
really
have
hard?
causes. That could probably start a forest fire.
Start a fire, not from the forest.
Well, if you're anywhere near a forest,
A cougar smoking a cigar.
there you go. But these are all inus
Not sure what you
conditions.
meant by that.
Sometimes a cougar
that's-
smoking a cigar is just a cougar smoking a cigar.
Okay,
Okay.
guys, this is complicated. Okay.
I know. We need to
I'm
stop
trying to
interrupting the
pay
teacher. I hear
attention.
she
I'm not
takes her
here to
head
think.
off. if you do that.
I'm also going to end up like completely botching this because I'm too busy laughing and getting confused.
Well, at least I'm not talking about fecal petrified stuff.
You can tell
You should have brought it up.
by their love faces.
All right, I wish I could make it funnier, but I'm not. I'm not Eve. So let's talk a little bit about Inus conditions. Okay, some Inus conditions, like all the ones that I just mentioned for a forest fire. So we've got a lit match from a car is not necessary for a forest fire to start fires, since they can start a number of ways. So it's also not sufficient. You can throw if it was sufficient to start a forest fire, we'd have a lot more fires.
Okay. Yep.
So it is not a necessary condition, and it's not a sufficient condition, but it's an Inus condition. If we toss a lit match out of a car, and there are enough dry leaves to start combustion, and there's oxygen to feed the fire, then it might be a non-redundant, unnecessary part of a sufficient condition.
Okay, explain the non-redundant. That's what I'm not quite getting yet.
Yeah.
Nothing else takes its place.
Okay.
Okay, so there isn't anything else in the mix that does the job of the lit match.
Okay, so if you don't mind me paraphrasing, so you could have, in the case of a study, you could have a common cause or something that happens frequently that could be a root cause of some effect, but isn't a direct cause.
Or isn't the only cause.
So it could correlate, but it's actually causing the root cause.
That could be, yes, but we could still call that a cause. We could still call it an Inus condition or a cause.
Okay.
The question is, if you want to identify it as a cause, and if you want to know that it's a cause, you have to know if it's non-redundant. So that means that you've got to eliminate anything else that would do that job. So yes, you're thinking on the right track.
Okay.
I for some reason, I swear to God, I'm thinking about like, and I don't know why my head went here, because dark.
I'm scared.
But yeah, but you come back from like break, and you had 3 gerbils in a cage in the back of the classroom, and then
I thought you
want to
meant
know
like
if they're
for
dead or
lunch.
alive?
And one may have been somewhat eaten when you come back and you're trying to figure out which one was eaten, because gerbils is it gerbils or is it like guinea pigs that eat their young?
I have no idea.
No, I don't know. Maybe I'm someone check Snopes, because I might be talking out my ass. Speaking of gerbils, never mind. So.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on. So how do we know? Then how do we identify an Inus condition if it is neither
You have a
sufficient
gerbil in your anus.
nor necessary? I'm just going to ignore you. If it's neither sufficient nor necessary, that makes it kind of difficult to identify, right? All right.
Okay.
So if we want to infer, say that A causes B, we have to establish 3 things. And this is all about how to design a study that allows you to say, I'm pretty sure that A causes B. Okay? You have to establish 3 things, and that's the next slide. 1,
Ding,
we
ding,
have
ding.
to know that A preceded B, because causes cannot come after effects.
Which you don't know by correlation necessarily.
No gerbil joke there?
Yeah.
Waiting for a gerbil joke.
No, I'm not. I'm not sinking to your level.
Right.
Okay. I really should not have tried this on here. Okay, so A has to
Things
precede
are going great.
B. The second thing is
Yeah,
A
I'm just
has
looking up to the
to
teacher.
co-vary with B. This is where correlation comes in. In other words, B, the effect has to be more likely to occur when A is present, when the cause is present, than when it is not present. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And the third one is freedom from confounding.
Yes.
Basically, that means that you
Or
can't.
confound this charm.
There cannot be another variable that also co-varies with the cause, because that variable could explain the effect. So let's
go
talk
back
about
to the ice cream.
Actually, I'm going to go back to the lit match. Okay. So
Ice cream.
Oh, sorry, I'm doing that.
I don't have any ice cream. You're just going to make me hungry. So if A precedes B, we have a lit match occurring before the forest fire. We know that happens. The forest fire occurs after the match is thrown out the window, not before, right?
You can have a match fire lit by a forest.
You can have all of those things, but if
by a forest, yes,
you're observing this and you're claiming that the match caused the forest fire, you are not going to stand next to the fire and throw a lit match at it.
Why?
Okay.
Why not?
Because that would be illogical.
You haven't bet, Bob, have you?
Yeah, you're right. The second requirement, a forest fire is more likely to occur when there is a lit match than when there is no lit match. There are other causes for forest fires. However, it is more likely to occur when a match is there than when a match is not there.
So, okay, so it's more likely that
it's not less likely, and it's not the same.
My argument fell apart.
Okay.
It's just equally likely. Is that what it is? I don't know. I'm confused.
Statistically more likely. If a lit match is present, it is statistically more likely that there will be a forest fire than if a lit match is not present. The third thing...
That's with correlation. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you
correlate.
I'll ask later.
Yeah, it has to correlate.
That's why the word correlates.
Yes. So the relationship between A and B is free from confounding. In other words, the lit match does not correlate with other factors, such as oxygen being present or the leaves being dry. The oxygen is present whether the match is there or not. The leaves are dry whether the match is there or not. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So those things cannot explain the presence of a forest fire. They can only contribute to it. They can only be part of a sufficient condition.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's look at some other examples. This was a headline in the New York Times on the New York Times website a few years ago. There's some great ones. They always claim cause. Whenever anybody comes out with a correlational study, they always use causal language when they're talking about it. So grades in high school cause better health in adulthood is the claim. So high school grades is the cause. Better health in adulthood is the effect. Does A precede B? Well, yes, high school occurs before adulthood. A co-varies with B. Yes, grades were positively correlated in this study with adult health measures. So
I know which one's wrong.
Yeah, but I would be curious.
So the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it failed.
I'd be curious
Why?
how they measured that, though. Which.
There were different measures of health, but even if you accept their measure, there's still problems with it because on average, people with higher grades in school have more access to resources than people with lower grades.
Yeah, so
and that's for various reasons. There's socioeconomic status. There's all sorts of reasons. On average, people with higher high school grades are more intelligent than those with lower grades, so they may make better choices. On average, people with higher grades in high school are more motivated than people with lower grades, so they may be in better shape. Who knows? But those things are called confounding variables. Okay, so the idea of a confounding variable is that there are plausible explanations for any differences that you find, for any effect that you find. There are plausible explanations. But notice something that requirement is still there. That requirement for covariation is always there. So that's why people get a little miffed whenever people say causation doesn't imply correlation, because it's an important role. I mean, correlation doesn't imply cause, rather. It's an important role in deciding whether something is a cause. It is a requirement for a cause. And so if we have other things available to us to talk about, then there are reasons to think that something might cause something else, and I'll get to that. But here's a good example of people come up with all kinds of explanations as to why the full moon makes people act nutty. Okay, some of them are really goofy explanations, like the body's full of water, and since the moon affects the tides, it must affect the water in the body, blah, blah, blah. Some people come up with better explanations, like, in a full moon, it's actually brighter outside, so there are more people out, so there's more activity, so they're more likely to, get into accidents. And they use that to explain why ERs are busier during the full moon and why police are busier. That meets the temporal precedent. The behavior is measured after the full moon appears. And it meets the freedom from confounding, or it probably meets freedom from confounding. There's not a better explanation or something that correlates with the full moon that could explain the behavior. The problem is there is no correlation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can't be causing that because there's no correlation. It's not correlated. They aren't busier. What were you
I was going to say, I thought there was no effect.
Well, if there's no correlation, then there is no. You can't.
Yeah,
If you can't
okay.
claim cause, you can't
Called
claim an effect.
Called an effect.
Right.
There is no effect. Exactly. The effect would be difference between behavior in full moon and behavior without a full moon. So that is exactly what it is. It's just different words for saying it. So if there's no effect, then there's no cause.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, out of just curiosity, I think the reason, well, at least online, a lot of people point out the whole causation and correlation problem is because it seems like that, at least when scientific studies are reported, it seems like those are the kinds of conclusions that are mistakenly made.
Yes.
When a study says, okay, there's a correlation between effect A, or cause A and effect B, there's a lot of assumptions made about what that means.
Yeah, they assume it is a cause and effect, and we're wired that way.
It may mean something and it may not.
And the other thing is, I mean, in a lot of the studies that when I look at them, the knowledgeable scientists are very careful to mention that this is a correlation that maybe should prompt more investigation, but something is lost in translation through the science reporters and then what's left of science bureaus these days.
That happens a lot.
It's even buried in like the science reporting that in the final paragraph said the Professor Doodly Squat warns that this is an interesting correlation.
And the study
but that's
papers,
not what the headline says.
Yeah, and the study papers tend to be very specific about what error is involved and what the caveats are.
Tend to. There are plenty.
Yeah.
There are actually plenty of people, good studies out there that draw those types of conclusions. In fact, when I was in grad school, one of our major assignments throughout the semester was to find 4 or 5 of those studies that have what we call confounds, and they're only confounds if the researcher claims a causal relationship. If the researcher does not claim a causal relationship, then guess what? It's not a confound. It's a limitation. So
hold on.
That limits your
hold
study.
on. Processing. Scary blue screen.
Sorry.
What?
I was processing and I have the blue screen of death.
Who does?
Okay.
It was
we
a
can talk about
confounder.
that later.
Bob is blue screening right now.
I'm half an hour through, so
In my brain.
Yes.
He
but
has to
we can
reboot.
talk about that later. But it's not a confound. It's not a confound. It's a limitation. So it's an external validity problem, not an internal validity problem. Process that.
Yeah, me and my gerbil will
process that. Bitch. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so let's say
just
let's
throw
talk
the
about
snack
testing the
down.
hypothesis. This becomes really
Confounded
important
by
skepticism
that.
because let's talk about why we know acupuncture doesn't reduce pain. Okay, lots and lots of research shows it does. If you conduct an experiment comparing acupuncture to doing nothing, for example, we establish a temporal precedence because the treatment precedes the measure of pain, and we establish a correlation because the outcome is almost always that people who receive acupuncture have less pain, right? Where's the problem? The problem is you don't have a proper, what we call counterfactual. Counterfactual is a type of control that we need to use. Yeah. The counterfactual is what would have happened had the treatment not happened. So, or a proper comparison. It's not a proper comparison because the people are, along with the acupuncture treatment, or all these other things, like people know they're getting acupuncture. So even if you randomly assign them to treatment groups, they know they're getting acupuncture. They have expectations about whether or not that's going to work. And just doing anything to people can change that. Just giving them attention might reduce their pain. So what do? We do something called a sham acupuncture treatment, where they're getting needles stuck in them, and people can't tell the difference between the real treatment and the fake treatment. And guess what happens? The correlation goes away.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a good example of the correlation's meaningful, okay? But it's meaningful because it's necessary for this causal inference. So we eliminate causes in the same way. We do that with, say, autism-causing vaccines. We eliminate those explanations by tweaking the conditions until we have until the correlation goes away, and then we know under these conditions it doesn't happen. You see this with gender research too, where we can see differences in normal under normal situations and in certain controlled situations, and yet we can eliminate some of these hypotheses. We can make those effects go away. That's part of learning under what conditions these things happen, and then it becomes a limitation. In other words, an external validity question rather than an internal validity question. So it's not necessarily, a cause. So that's one of the that I actually answered one of the questions I was going to answer there.
Okay.
So if we can't do controlled experiments, and there are certain things that you have to do in order to, one thing that absolutely must happen if you are going to control for all confounding variables, if you're going to meet that third requirement, is you have to have random assignment. That means that people have to be assigned to treatment groups based on some random process, like a rolling of a die, and not some other criteria. Because any criteria that you use means that that criteria can explain the outcome of the experiment, whether you find differences or not. So people who choose to be in one condition versus another are different. People who, if you put all the men in one condition, the women in another condition, you could explain it by gender. If you put, in the acupuncture case, if you put all the headache people in one condition and the backache people in another, the source of their pain could explain the difference. We can't always do that.
Yep.
In fact, we can't do it a lot. So there are things like the smoking caused cancer. Well, you know what kind of a mess we had to go through to convince people of that. And part of that is because we can't ethically assign people to smoke, much less randomly assign them to. So how do we do that? Well, we established
that you'd have with a historical.
It's population studies.
Yeah, population studies.
But this is how you do it, though. You don't do it with one study. You establish temporal precedents and you establish correlations, but then you start looking at all the conditions under which those correlations hold true. And you do that until you have come to a point where that's the only explanation that's left.
Yep.
Is that one. Smoking causes cancer. We know it causes cancer in rats. Okay? There are other ethical issues with that, but that's for another show. If we don't know for certain that translates to humans, but we know about lots of other things. We know how smoke affects cells. And then we have also done all sorts of correlational research that's controlled for all the hypothesized variables like socioeconomic status and those things. And that converges to a causal explanation. And then we can also eliminate causes in the same way. So we can eliminate causes. We can easily eliminate the vaccine causes autism thing by making the correlation go away under certain conditions. So causation is actually really important. I mean, correlation is actually, really important for causation.
Up until that point, and then it's
just
all
not enough.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
Causation
is an insufficient but necessary condition for causal inference. Correlation is an insufficient but necessary condition.
So
that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, Barb?
Yeah. No, none of this does. Constantly going back and forth with that. So I hope
what's with the dragon?
Smoking man.
The smoking man.
Yeah.
Or the
Oh.
Pretty picture.
In case I fried your brain, yeah. Can we have the last slide just to make it up to all those people that sat through that and really didn't want to hear it?
Yeah, I put it up. Yeah, that was the dragon thing.
Here's a pretty cloud for you that looks like
Yeah.
a Mega Man.
I like pretty clouds.
I think it's a Zord.
Oh, this is a very nice breakdown of this mental process. A lot of people have intuited a lot about it, but to hear it explained is nice.
It's a bit watered down, but it's or a little oversimplified, but that's the bare bones of it. And if you're really interested in that, think more about it. Think more about and look and read more about it and question more about it. I highly recommend Schottish Cook and Campbell's Causal Inference from Generalized Causal Inference. It's a long title. It's a really, really good book on the
find titles that are a little bit easier to say. I'm just saying.
Sorry.
I'm just.
I can't say correlation and causation, so.
Yes.
But Schottish Cook and Campbell, if you look up those three words together, you will find this book.
Which is not a cookbook. I'm just saying.
No, it's a like 10th generation of a book about causal inference that's been being built over years.
Yeah.
And it's an excellent book. And I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. And it's really, really, really helpful in all areas of critical thinking. Whenever you're trying to think about methodology, whenever anybody, shows you a study, if you learn what is required for these things, it makes it a lot easier to break it down. And also understand that cause is not an either or, it's a continuum. Because we can almost never get to, we have some experiments that are perfect, close to perfect.
Like creation?
And then we have things that are, and then we have things that are really, really uncontrolled, and everything in between. And so we can get close in a lot of ways, but you have to know how to do that. You have to know, the bones of it.
This is a great topic, and I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to leave a little time for Eve and Bob, but
sorry.
I have tons of questions. I love to talk about this for another hour, actually. But I'm gonna just thank you for that great talk. And anybody has questions, I think you got a post on your blog, ICBS Everywhere. Go check it out, and maybe you can start a discussion with her there to continue this great topic. I think Eve is next, and it's got something to do with the Beatles, which I think is cool. Are you going to do this?
Yeah,
Did you see those flapjacks they were making online this week that had the Beatles' faces?
Yes, yeah.
And it was not pareidolia, because there was causation there, and not just correlation. I can see them actually do the... Never mind.
My story seems really dumb now. And I'm concerned that I'm going to now be known as the dumb woman on Virtual Skeptics.
No, you're the funny one.
But all right.
I'm not funny at all. I'd rather be the funny one.
I'm just
the
dumb,
the other day,
not funny one.
Robots. The other day, I was reading some clickbait list article about, a list of weird things you didn't know about the Beatles. Most of which I knew about the Beatles. But regardless, one story concerned the Beatles' staff astrologist. Because, of course, they had a staff astrologist.
Who doesn't?
It's hard to find a wacky belief that at least one of the Beatles didn't believe in, at least for a little while.
At least in one lifetime.
Yeah.
You see
it
what
really depends on
saying?
which drug they were on that week.
Yes, I don't believe in purple this week.
So a shop manager / astrologer with the exotic esoteric name Caleb Ashburton Dunning.
Oh, is the great Caleb Ashburton Dunning going to grace us with his presence?
And read our charts. Yes. And everything was going along swimmingly until he told John Lennon that, according to his horoscope, the stars said he should dump Yoko Ono and return to his first wife, Cynthia. Apparently, Ashburton Dunning had been too busy to read his own horoscope, which said you will experience a change of employment. He was summarily fired. And according to the article, he then joined a cult known as the process church of the final judgment. And then he dropped off the face of the earth. And that's really the end of his part of the story. But I got interested in the process church of the final judgment because it has quite a bizarre history, which I thought I'd share with you. It was founded in the 60s by two ex-Scientologists, so it starts well.
Yeah, yeah.
Robert Moore, and I have a slide of him, and Marianne McLean, who both later they married and took the surname de Grimston because classy.
Is that Brock Hazer?
What?
Because we have like evil Jesus up right now.
Evil Jesus?
Yeah.
He?
That's Robert
Gazing?
de Grimston. Yeah, no. But
No.
yeah,
No.
but no.
He's got a pet bit.
So it
Yes.
it
No.
started out as a Scientology-like or Dianetics-like therapy, and they used the E-meter. The de Grimstons were declared suppressive persons by Scientology, but they gradually began, because the E-meter started telling them weird shit, so they gradually grew into some sort of weird apocalyptic cult that some accused of being satanic. I don't know why. I mean, looking at his bright,
clearly,
shiny, smiling face. At some point, they moved from England to the Bahamas. They brought 6 German shepherds with them. Now, that might seem totally like a random fact, but just keep it in mind. Then they moved to Mexico, and Mexico was idyllic for them. There was swimming and sex and fun and sex and swimming. And Robert began seeing himself as, a bit Jesus-y. Then a hurricane happened.
This one does.
Yeah. A hurricane happened. It devastated the surrounding villages, but the process and the members survived. And that's when the psychic channeling and theology began. Robert saw the Godhead as made up of competing forces that wanted to be unified. Violence and love. That's apparently the hurricane was involved in that. He envisioned a 3-person God. I don't know where he got that idea from. But the 3 persons of his Godhead were Jehovah, Satan, and Lucifer. Dude. Then
and
Jesus.
Who? What was the last one?
Lucifer. Jehovah, Satan, Lucifer. And then Jesus as a unifying force. Hence the charges of Satanism, because of Satan. Then, eventually, they went back to London to declare the coming apocalypse of unification. They were met by lawyers representing the parents of some underage members.
Yikes.
They opened a coffee bar called Satan's Cave. They started dressing in kind of a Satan-y way. They drummed up donations.
Dressed in a Satan-y way?
Satan-y way.
Did they wear one?
The black capes, black turtlenecks,
I thought
pretty much.
Kind of like the Depeche Mode fans back in the late 80s.
They were
Kino fans.
More like Anton LaVey wannabes. They drummed up donations. Marianne was vigorously anti-vivisection, and she told the followers to say the donations were going to animal welfare. They weren't. They were going to the de Grimstons. But keep that in mind, too. People, according to them, belong to one or another personality type. So they were either Jehovan, Satanic, Luciferian, or possibly Jesusian.
Did they have a?
They have non-members.
Please tell me they had a sorting hat.
They did not.
The Jesus-ians were white, right? They dressed Jesus-y?
You mean the Jesus people?
They all, I believe they all dressed in black, yeah.
They all dressed in black, Satan-y. Okay.
Later, they changed, but non-members, though, were grays. And not the fun alien type of grays, but rather drab. They meant
Wow.
that as drab mediocrities.
They were
the
great
grays.
until they fought the what's the name of that thing? The Fire Beast thing, and then they came back later and they were white. No.
Yeah.
I have no idea what
And
you're
grays
talking
were going to burn in the coming apocalypse, which
yes.
just sounds like rapture ready, but whatever.
Yes.
The church had a glossy magazine called The Process. Later, we'll see a copy of that. According to a Fortean Times article, quote, the editorial policy favored Hitler, Satan, and Gore. I don't know why people
Al
call
Gore?
them satanic.
Al Gore?
No. Humanity is doomed was the brief. The tide of the end had come. The earth
Al
is
Gore.
prepared for the ultimate devastation. The scene is set. So, yeah. But then, in 1971, Ed Sanders of the Fugs wrote a book called The Family about the Manson family. And he claimed the process influenced the family. And made sorts of accusations or implications. There was a lawsuit. A chapter was taken out of the book. But it sort of tarnished their image a bit. They tried to change their image. They stopped wearing black. They stopped wearing the turtlenecks.
They stopped
I think
worshiping
they tried
Satan.
blue for a while.
Did you say
They did
sniffing
start
glue?
ditching
What?
wearing blue.
Oh.
They did start ditching the
In that-
satanic trapping. They did community service and interviewed musicians on the radio. Then the de Grimstons divorced. Apparently, Robert suggested maybe bringing in some more women to the marriage, and that didn't go over well. Robert and his teachings were ousted entirely from the church, which Mary Ann renamed the Foundation Church of the Millennium. And then somehow, in 1991, the church became the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary, a tax-exempt non-profit.
Wow.
Tax-exempt non-profit charity, and then in 2003 it was renamed the Best Friends Animal Society.
Of the
I believe by the
apocalypse.
time it yes,
It was all
Millennium.
lambs. It was all lambs.
Oh, lambs!
You know, all the breadcrumbs you've been leaving us this entire time make perfect sense now.
Yep.
Yep. But actually,
See
by
how
the
they all
time
correlate?
it became,
And never mind.
by the time it became an
converge
animal
on dirt.
charity,
Yes.
I don't think any of the original members were actually involved anymore. And I don't really know how they got there. I mean, how does a Nazi-philic, death-obsessed cult turn into a huge, and it is, I believe, a huge no-kill animal charity? How did they go from this? There's a slide, next slide.
I think go from
That's
death metal.
a
Wow.
copy of their one of their magazines,
That's an album
which
cover
may
right
have
there.
had something
That's a
about
good one, too.
That's
Manson
good.
in it. I believe the death one. And this, the next slide.
That's totally an album cover right there.
I
Yeah.
know.
How do they go from that to this? The last slide.
Satanic puppies.
Yeah.
They're so sweet.
And I really have no
Yeah,
freaking
that's what
idea.
it is.
I did
Where's
find one of the Wikipedia articles has some dead links to go to stories that look like they tell the story of best friends going back to the process, but those are dead links, so I haven't really found out. My theory is that, you know, with all the schisms, I like Satan, I like Jesus, everyone decided, you know what?
You got your
I
Satan,
like
my Jesus.
I
puppies.
think we can all agree on fluffy puppies.
Exactly.
So,
Everyone
yeah,
can agree on
that's
that.
Our
That's
church,
just it. It was
Church of the Lolcat.
yeah.
That's a different church completely, and they are not nice people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're a cult, man.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking for. I was thinking of getting in a good basement cat picture, but
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
But they're
can
so
something
cute.
good come out of a satanic cult? Yes, apparently it can. And don't get me wrong, I love Satan and all, but I really think I'll go with the fluffy puppies and taking care of animals after Katrina, and good on you.
So you basically what we're
Weird
saying is
death
that
cult.
PETA is worse than a satanic death cult. Is that what you're saying?
Hmm.
It's not what I'm saying, but it's true. Yes.
This particular death cult, yes.
Yes.
Yes, this
Aw,
particular.
that is just a
there you go. I'm gonna put the puppies up again because that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a adorable picture.
You'll notice one is trying to eat the other's face off, though,
That's true.
Well, just gnaw on it a little.
but in a very sweet way.
Aww.
I want to eat your soul. What are you saying right there?
Yeah, as long as we have no sad stories about rats, everything will be great.
Yes. Yes.
Oh shit.
Yep. Not sad stories. Change the slide, and then I'll put this up, and then I can do that. Thanks, Eve, for that that nice fluffy story about good people and their warm habits. But I'm gonna talk about evil robot things. Actually, they're not that evil this week. First, there's this thing. This was sent to me by Bob.
Yes, I helped.
Yes. Originally from Fraser Cain. You guys know Fraser Cain from very many awesome web-based projects and stuff and Google and stuff like that. Okay. But this thing is the Nixie. The Nixie. Doesn't sound nice? Not fluffy as puppies. Apparently, happy young people like it. No. This is a selfie bot that you wear on your wrist. It is a camera that folds into like a watch type thing you wear on your wrist, and it has 4 blades like a rotocopter. And you can do these neat little things like have it follow you and that kind of stuff. I think that's awesome. And of course, it'll revolutionize our ability to take embarrassing photos of ourselves and post them on the internet. This is possible thanks to some relatively new, cheap, cool electronics. I'm pulling up my web stuff, and the internet is slow. Intel makes this little chip called the Edison, which is a tiny little. Actually, it's a development board, and it's really tiny. And
It's a chip?
It's a chip, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's small and light, and it's got a standard set of development tools that you can just get, and it's cheap. Requires low power. They had a contest called Make It Wearable. I think it was what it's called. Yes, Make It Wearable. And these guys, the Nixie guys, won one of the prizes, and they've got a I don't think it's Kickstarter, but they have a crowdsourcing site up now, and they've already earned like they've already collected $50,000 to prototype this thing, so it's probably going to happen. Just so you get the idea, there's the picture.
Do we see it coming off someone's wrist?
No, because it doesn't quite exist yet. That's the other thing. They're due to prototype it early November. So they're supposed to have a prototype at a show in November. So that's how early this is. The project is still in development. Now, all the technology exists. This is possible. It's not like one of those other Kickstarter projects you've probably seen that you look at, like the car chucking robot that I talked about a few weeks back. The technology to do that probably doesn't exist yet. But the technology to do this is not, and it's a very small step from things that already exist and that are already commercially available and are already pretty easy to throw together. It's not, it doesn't require science to do this. It requires just a little bit of engineering. The only question is how much it'll cost and how the battery life is going to be and blah, 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 blah. So all those things that the consumers are going to care about. I hope this happens. I'm probably going to buy one unless it's like $2,000 a pop. I don't think it's worth that. If it's standard price point, which is $100 to $250 is like what people will spend on a luxury electronic item, then I think you're going to see them
go for
prices. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be just more flying drones everywhere. And
Yeah,
FAA, get off your butt.
Everybody will have a drone.
Yeah, everyone will have a drone and have a selfie bot. Can you imagine, let's say, not this generation, but next generation or the generation after that? Instead of having, cell phones where and cameras, which, my kids' generation is going to have their entire lives documented in forms of snapshots and video clips. By the time they're my age, they'll have so much information, they'll need a database application to mine their own life to find what the heck is going on. They'll have so much data collected. 2 generations from now, we'll have a cloud of drones following us around all the time, and our entire life will be completely documented from start to finish. And by the time we die and are buried in our funeral, there will be a retrospective documentary automatically generated on our life, which would be
Good point.
quite awesome.
Or quite possibly the most depressing thing you've ever said. Wow.
Yes, especially if you think of it in terms of surveillance,
Yeah.
which I'm not even going to go into. Oh, that's the darkest part of that. This next thing is a cute little mouse
Aw.
in a harness. Look at the mouse. Isn't he happy? Especially with that
Forget-
probe going into his brain.
Ah.
Yes, this is an experiment called New Walk.
Zombie rat?
It was done by the Swiss Federal Institute for Technology.
And evil.
Yeah, and evil. I don't have a video because I couldn't find one that I actually had rights to put on, but I will link to it on the website in the notes. They have a method that we allow humans with spinal cord injuries to walk. And they've done some experiments on rats where they've severed the spinal cord, so the rat has no control over its own legs. And they have used an existing technology, which is, I have the acronym here somewhere, EES, which is electro, oh geez. Anybody can help me out here.
Electroencephalogram?
No, epidural electrical stimulation, which essentially means they put probes in your spine and they zap you. And it is an existing way of that they can actuate the muscles in your lower body by stimulating the neurons in your spinal cord. Blah 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 blah. That's already existed. That's already happened. There's already been experiments along those lines. The biggest problem about trying to get people to walk that way, which would be some kind of device that was for you. Yeah, thank you. Is that in order to actuate the muscles, it would require some kind of manual tuning on the fly. So the person with the device would have to be doing something to actuate the muscles manually, which is very difficult. And especially in terms of like balance, because balance requires a fine feedback loop of some kind. You have to sense your balance and then adjust for it on the fly continuously, like the human brain does. This technology would allow a computer or a microchip or some kind of embedded device to do the feedback loop for you. So you could have the simplistic control like that other prosthetics have, which is actuating some kind of muscle or some kind of movement that would get translated into the movement of the device. Like in the case of arms, it's usually like flexing the muscle in the arm or something like that. Of the existing tissue that would actuate the robotic arm. This would be something similar. You would, I mean, this is way off in the future because they don't have it yet. You'd actuate something, and it would send signals to a control box, which would cause your legs to move through some kind of electrostimulation. Yes. So, robot would be controlling your legs. Just let that sit out there. Yes.
Question.
Until they figure out how to hook that into the brain.
Yes, I mean, and that's the weak spot right now. Is you don't have the direct computer control from the brain yet. Go ahead, Bob.
Did they make the rat bipedal?
Yes. Well, that's what they're holding it up. You look in this picture.
Yeah.
They are kind of holding it up. It's not clear how much weight there. I mean, it looks like that it's not holding its own weight. It's just doing the walk. And the rat is not in control of its legs. The computer is, which is just freaky. Creepy.
Are the scientists in the background actually saying "mwahaha"?
I suspect so. The other thing that's not clear about this is how they're doing the feedback loop. the videos I've seen the video that shows the rat walking like that, and I've also seen videos that look like it's computer vision that's tracking the legs while it's walking. So I suspect that their feedback loop is some kind of camera that's external.
You know
that's
what?
looking at it, and then that's controlling the legs.
This is
which
how
I know is known technology. So
right, but you know what you could do? You could get one of those little flying wrist drones to monitor you.
yes, that would
You
that
see
would be.
that is exactly what's going to happen.
This is why we need a cloud of drones following us at all times.
Yes.
So the robots can make us walk places.
Robotic rats are going to want vengeance.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
One way or another.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I think this is a long way off. Even though they are looking at doing human trials, which means probably they're going to find people that have spinal cord injuries and do some kind of experiment with controlling their legs with electrodes. I don't know how far
That's
that
really
is.
impressive,
I suspect
though.
it's years and years and years before you see even the precursor work on this.
Why can't you
there's
just
a lot that has to be solved. But just think, the first problem that's going to be solved is the computer controlling us. So that can't possibly go wrong.
No.
Did you have another question, Bob?
Well, my question was, why don't we just put them on segways? Because the balance is there, and don't worry about it. You roll. It's great.
I think that there are a lot of people with spinal cord injuries that are essentially stuck in segways, Bob. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying.
Okay, fine. I'm an insensitive prick. This is. I've
also,
gotten
you asked
there.
a stupid question.
Oh, also, it was really stupid.
Okay. One more last thing that I'm going to move on to before I completely harass Bob.
Is the computer on a Segway?
No. Well, the picture I'm showing is just a screen capture of Microsoft's robot development kit, which has been out since 2007, 2008, I think it was. It was Microsoft's attempt at trying to make it easier to bridge from a computer to some robot hardware. The idea was in 2007, Bill Gates did an article in, I think it was Popular, no, it was one of the magazines. I can't remember which one it was right now. Scientific American. There you go. I have it in front of me. That's notes. See, notes. Those are good things. And his idea at the time, this is a year or so before he left and went and retired, essentially, was a robot in every home. He saw that bridging the gap from PCs or computers to some kind of embedded hardware that did stuff physically in the physical world was a big deal. So they had a development kit they put together. It's been used in a lot of hobby stuff and a couple of projects here and there. Never really took off. And nowadays there are much more at least as robust, completely open source tools to do the exact same things. There's one of the ones that we use called ROS, is Robot Operating System. It's one of the most popular. It's completely open source. There's a huge community using it. There's a lot of good feedback. There's continual updates. It just did a great big release recently, which is very cool. It's integrated into a lot of things that you need to control all kinds of robotics, from vision to controlling robot arms and knowing where you are, the kinematics, which is the math of translating position to joint movements, and a lot of things like that. Well, the bottom line is that Microsoft has decided to not do robotics anymore. They're canceling their robotic branch altogether. So your next, the robot that comes to kill you down the street is not going to be run by Microsoft. So you won't have that.
That's a surprise. That's a surprise.
Well, I mean,
you'd have to keep rebooting it.
That's true. I mean, the main defense that I was counting on for the future, which is the blue screen of death we mentioned earlier, and the completely rebooting, is not going to save us from robots in the future. But I don't know. In terms of actually developing robots, it's a good thing. Nobody wants to pay a license for this stuff. Everybody wants to contribute. All of us have grown up our careers around the technology that we hack, which is the open source stuff. We want that kind of control. We want to have that kind of stuff, and it keeps us in business. So and they'll still need us when they're killing the rest of you who don't know how to fix them. So there you go. Microsoft is no longer in the robot business, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So there you go. There's my 3 stories. We have the flying wearable robot copter that's going to revolutionize CIA spying and
selfies.
spying and selfies. And we have the
Rat torture.
rat cyborgs from the future. And we have Microsoft is not going to save us from the robot apocalypse. So there you go. Any questions? No? No questions. Okay. Thank you for watching. Bob's up next.
Yep.
What you talking about, Bob?
Ebola.
I've got Ebola.
Ebola?
I have more than one Ebola. All right, so
Ebola.
Ebola, or the universal murder virus, coming to America's shores is a narrative that's been playing out in the national press over the last couple of months. And honestly, it's even been reported as something of an inevitability by health officials in the news. I think that was a way of prepping people for, when something happened. Well, it's a pretty photogenic disease, as the presentation of Ebola in the last stages is pretty gruesome and involves lots of fluids. Yesterday, it was reported and confirmed that a case of Ebola had been diagnosed for the first time outside of Africa in Dallas, Texas, which is practically on America's doorstep. See what I did to Texas there? All right. So Thomas Eric Duncan reported to a Dallas area emergency room on Friday, where the fact that he was fresh off the taco truck from Ebola land was somehow lost on the staff there. I'm still trying to process that.
I don't think they actually asked. I think that's the.
They said that he asked. So I don't know. Yeah, it's instead. So he showed up there on Friday, and he was sent home with antibiotics, which surprisingly didn't work. He showed up again on Sunday in much worse shape. Currently, he's in isolation, being treated, but he's seriously ill. And the CDC is tracking, at the last count I saw, 18 people that he had contact with. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I think the coverage has been rather responsible. If you could bring up the first image, I thought that this one was mostly. Do you see that one? That's cute, isn't it?
Very.
All right. So I
satanic.
A little satanic.
Yes.
But for the most part, it's been pretty responsible. I noticed I wasn't seeing the really bad reporting and fear-mongering that I expected. A few notable exceptions include this screen capture from CNN.
Yes.
That's the next one.
Another one?
This is MSNBC.
This one here?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Is it time to panic? No.
Yeah. So, no. Like, if you really think your job is to inform, your headline should not be a question, right? There was also, if you go to the next one, John Roberts' baffling report for Fox News. And this one...
It's a mystery?
Well, no, I'm not worried about the headline. I was worried about the content of the report. Because they did a pretty good job of being accurate and saying, this is not something that you can get through casual contact. If you're asymptomatic, you're not likely to spread the disease because it's through bodily fluids and you really got to work at contracting it. But then they got everything right up to the very end. They said that they talked about that missionary, the OBGYN, who was working on mothers who were asymptomatic when they appeared for delivery, right? But then he caught the disease anyway. And they noted that he was practically bathing in body fluids, as OBs do. But ended with the bizarre statement that left by itself, I mean, really left the wrong idea in people's heads. You can get Ebola from asymptomatic people if you're up to your wrists in their bloody uteri. You know, like that should have been. Yes.
Are you talking about the missionary?
Yes.
Well, wasn't he also working in emergency rooms?
I have no idea.
I think so.
So yeah, he may have been triaging, but you don't know where he got it though. That's the thing. He could have got it in an emergency room, could have got it in the maternity ward, could have got it at home because it's freaking everywhere, right? I mean, so regardless, less circumspect has been my beat, which is the conspiracy osphere, and I'll start with Russia Today, or Voice of Mother Russia, as some, bring up the first image of that image.
The next one.
Yes, the next one.
I can go back to the first one if you want.
And this one kind of I thought was perhaps a little dishonest. First Ebola patient was in contact with school children now being monitored. And the way that I thought of that, it sounded to me like he was rubbing his mucus on school, like playground slides, or was a bus driver or something, right? It's gonna. I think we're gonna see that it's probably people in his family.
Yep. And they're school-aged children.
Yeah, and so.
Which would make it sound a little closer to what it actually is.
Yeah, and the thing is that Russia Today also often does that. They really are, and most American stations consider them to be Russian state TV. And they do a lot of America bashing. If there's something bad, they will jump on it. And not a reliable news source. But I'm surprised at how many skeptics don't seem to realize that. Oh well. Then there was this guy. You may have heard of him. His name is. Oh, damn it. No, you haven't heard of this person. NoDisinfo.com. The headline: West African Ebola outbreak is a hoax. And I want you to take a look at the other headlines that are on this. Looting and burning of Ferguson Quick Trip was a staged hoax. Michael Jackson's mother proves his death was a hoax. Beheading of a woman by an Oklahoma man is what, everyone?
Hoax?
A hoax. A hoax, yes.
Did you read this
they don't have the
article?
three boo-boo ones.
Did you read this article? It's amazing. It's absolutely
it's unreal.
amazing. It's entertaining.
You stare at one thing and see something completely otherworldly. Yeah, he's looking at
there's nobody in this. It proves that there is no patient. There's nobody in this. Yeah, there is. I can see him.
Yeah, I know. That's his foot.
He
right?
zooms into him too, into nobody in here.
There's
a person in there.
It was unbelievable. Yeah, I know. And this is somebody who is, as far as I can tell, is incapable of believing that anything newsworthy has ever really happened in the world. He can't see reality. He has a hard time accepting reality. Everything is duplicitous. And something, as I was looking through his stories, he was constantly using a phrase that became very popular during the Sandy Hook hoax, which was, and he'll quote me on that, won't he?
Probably.
Yeah, the crisis actor. So somebody who is, paid or volunteered to be someone who pretends to be ill, so you can do a massive disaster preparedness drill, right? A very useful metaphor that I'm surprised didn't get picked up a lot sooner than that, honestly. So could we go to the next image?
Yeah, I loved how he made sure that everybody involved in Ebola they're all in on it.
Oh God, there was the guy who was like covering his eyes, and he's like, "See, that's a military salute." No, he's covering his eyes from the glare. Yeah, he was a. There's something going on. All right, so.
I love the meat guy.
Meat guy. This is Mike Adams' site.
Yeah, of course it is.
Natural News. He's less responsible that Ebola quarantine zones quickly become starvation death camps. That one got yeah. And then one of the things he said, top 10 things you should do now to protect yourself from an uncontrolled. This is from the Health Ranger, and the most viewed articles. Top 10 things you need to do now to protect yourself from uncontrolled Ebola outbreak, which isn't a thing here.
But
most of them involve going
really
and
coming.
like watching his videos and buying supplements and shit. Guess what he sells? So he's an opportunist puke.
I like the bulletproof immune system, how not to get a cold ever. Nobody ever, ever, ever fully complies with any diet. So people will always blame the fact that they had that one thing. They cheated that one time, and that's why they got a cold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an easy out.
It really is. It really is. I personally would like to see him on that diet and then test his hypothesis that it's bulletproof, but that's just me. See what I did there? That was funny. Okay. All right.
Sorry, what?
Yeah. So, nobody has been more odious or opportunistic than Alex Jones, however. If you could bring up the next one.
Hey?
He quickly moved to Brandon.
Ooh.
Right, so this was up yesterday, Ebola virus on the left, and then later this afternoon, Ebola confirmed, Dallas, Texas, and so he makes very quick.
Confirmed.
Yeah. So
Is that an Ebola virus?
I
No.
don't know what it. Who knows? It looks like the Denver International Airport to me, honestly.
It's supposed to represent something in Dallas, isn't it?
I think it's the airport tower, but I don't remember it having those spikes all over it. Maybe it does. I don't remember.
I think that's a graphic choice, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
supposed to be glowing.
I think it might be surface proteins or something. No, this is a virus. Yeah, I mean.
I think it's bodily fluids
Ew.
with Ebola.
Well, it certainly isn't Bud Light.
Mm.
You managed to work that in. That's good.
Sorry, product placement.
Yes. What's worse than Bud Light? Alex Jones. Okay, so go to the next one.
Okay.
Ebola in America, the deadly things that could happen. I just couldn't get implications out. All right, and then another one that he did was Ebola in America. The confirmed case in Dallas could change everything. Everything, yeah. And I don't think so.
Where is Alex based?
He's in Texas.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So he's.
Maybe it's the Ebola conspiracy is aimed at him.
That's right. It's probably all Ebola is there. He wouldn't put that past people. Yeah.
I know.
Bud Light.
So the CDC, the next one. This is one that really got me angry. As I was going back to check right before the show. The CDC and Texas officials allow Ebola to spread in Dallas.
Nice.
This one pissed me off. 5 students within the family circle of the Dallas Ebola patient will not be quarantined, despite the fact they may be in the incubation cycle of the deadly disease. Go to the next slide, though. I want to show you their page. Hold on. So,
okay.
CDC and Texas officials allow Ebola to spread in Dallas is right next to Watson looks at the various draconian emergency measures put in place by the federal government in the event of a potential outbreak, which could see people detained. These are 2 completely opposite things on the same page. Letting them roam free and you're detaining them.
You want to blow a gasket? Okay, I'm at the car dealership this morning, and playing on this stupid television is the stupid View. The View.
Stupid View.
And they're talking about hot topics. Why on earth they have talk show people talking about questions that they have absolutely no expertise to answer? I have no clue. I'm not interested in what they believe. Okay? Not interested in their opinion.
I thought that was the format of the show.
Yeah.
I had to freaking listen to it. And I had to listen to them talk about, I thought, this is actually what I heard. I can't remember who said it. I heard
Gary
them.
Shepard.
Maybe it wasn't The View. Maybe it was I don't know, whatever the Kathy Lee and Regis today it's no longer Kathy Lee and Regis, but it's
Or Regis.
it's a very, very you could just paste their faces on them, and that would
Not Kathy
you
Lee
would
and
not be
Regis.
able to tell the
Sure.
difference between them.
Right.
And the new guy in the show is black, so they're just so much like them. Anyway, it was on one of those shows. They were talking about how, well, I thought that they were tracking people from, I thought that if you came into this country from that region, that entire continent, that we were tracking you and making sure that you all were all healthy and blah blah blah, and they had all that in place. So hundreds of people every day are coming into this country is somehow having been to Africa, and we're supposed to track all those people.
What they're doing.
Well, it's not that
Their
big a
symptoms.
continent.
I mean,
You don't have your
come on.
RFID implant yet?
Ah,
No kidding. No,
Yeah.
what they are doing is taking temperatures as people get on the planes.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's about it. But
Don't they do
but this guy wouldn't
aren't
have been
they
caught
doing
by that.
like in Liberia?
I'm sorry.
What?
Didn't the guy have his temperature taken? It's before he left Liberia.
Yeah, and I think after he got to the U.S. possibly. So he didn't become symptomatic on the plane. It was only later. So.
But we're supposed to be following all of these people. We're supposed to have them. I guess we were supposed to implant them with
Well, Donald
thermometers.
Trump didn't even want to let him in.
Yeah, I decided not to mention Donald Trump because I don't want to give him the time of day, but thanks for bringing him up, Eve.
Who?
Well, you spent time on Alex Jones.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a total hypocrite.
Yeah.
Random cat sighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
There it is.
If you're playing the game at home, time to drink.
There you go. All right,
Why not
so
try
next-
a Bud Light?
Nice. Nicely done.
Okay, next image. I'm sure that I have one. This one kind of got me mad. I thought they were tracking everybody who's coming from Africa, which is in itself already problematic. But then on Alex's site, that the Ebola case validates concerns over the open border. No, it frickin' doesn't.
We should shut the border down. Period. Shut it down. All travel from foreign countries.
Wait a minute.
Mhm.
You don't want
Is
them
it coming
foreigners
in
here
through
anyway.
Mexico now?
Exactly. It has nothing to do with it. They're conflating two paranoid things, kind of both of which are racist.
Kind of.
There's
Yeah.
a long-standing conspiracy narrative that immigrants are filthy, Ebola-carrying, kind of.
Well, they certainly aren't Bud Light drinkers.
No, they certainly aren't. But and that's part of a rhetoric of dehumanization.
Well, the Spanish were. They brought smallpox.
That's true. That's true. But was it Lou Dobbs who said that that undocumented immigrants were bringing like leprosy or something across the border? When you start seeing people as the carriers of disease, as rats, as things that need to be exterminated and eliminated, that's a really, really bad place to go. So don't be like Alex Jones and his odious ilk. One last bit of
an odious elk?
Or his odious elk. If he had an elk, I'm pretty sure it'd be odious.
Yes.
So I just want to give you guys, everybody chill out. I gave this advice to my students earlier today. If you can bring up the last image, don't lick anyone who's bleeding from the eyes.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
Where you know? That's
Yes.
that's it today.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we went long today, didn't we?
Yeah, you did. And let's wrap up because we're still going long.
Are we going to do book
Yeah.
time?
Yes, we're going to do book time. We're going to do the trivia question, which doesn't exist. And we're going to do... Okay, so no one knows where Tim is, so...
I know where Tim
No.
is.
The question.
Tim spoilered. Tim told everyone on Twitter where he is.
Oh. Well, no
He
one told me
ruined it.
that. So nobody wins because nobody forwarded the information.
Yeah.
I'm not giving the prize to Tim, I'm sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
He went to a Pomplamoose concert tonight.
Pomplamoose.
Pomplamoose.
Pomplamoose. Okay. So that's the trivia question. Whoop-de-doo. Oh,
what's behind
the
you?
thing, the thing. Blake, of course, because he's, he gets all of these. He got one of them. The one on, well, me sitting here, it's my right side, is War of the Robots, which you got. It's 1978, really bad sci-fi movie. And it might be sitting there, you might be able to read it right now. I'm not sure what's on the screen right now. The other one's kind of tough to get. It's a clip from a movie, and I don't have the release date. And I know Blake's frustrated he couldn't get it. But that's from one of my all-time favorite bad B movies, Demon Seed, which is about a computer that becomes intelligent and then makes a baby. So, and in that scene, it's eating a person.
Yum.
Yum.
Yes, yum, yum, in a very, very bad sci-fi kind of way. So that's awesome. Thank you for playing. I didn't see anybody else who got that. No? Okay. And then announcements, which all I've got in front of me is Tim and Eve are both on Skepticality this week. Right? Right?
Yep.
Okay. You want to say anything about that? No? Yes?
No, it's great.
Okay, then. Then book time, that is. And go ahead, Bob. I'm going to go in order.
All right, so in order to have more leisure to study these vital questions, the solution of which was to change entirely the direction of my life, I asked and obtained the care of a small congregation in the neighborhood of Bordeaux.
Okay, that was quick.
It's a sentence.
Eve?
3 years before archaeology confirmed what many historians long believed, a rare medieval mappa mundi, thought to date from the early part of the 15th century and predating Columbus by several decades, was discovered bound to a medieval manuscript. The map, which amazed the few academics and museum curators who were shown it, showed the old world of Europe, Africa, and Asia, and to the west of the island of Greenland, a much larger island called Vinland, identified by those who saw it as North America. The map had no certain provenance, and there were many questions regarding its authenticity. However, these were only revealed much later because for 7 years the map and its existence were kept a closely guarded secret until its proud owner, Yale University, revealed its existence in a blaze of publicity on Columbus Day, 1965. Spoiler alert, not going to end well for Yale.
Barbara?
Lacking a strong psychological theory, one must turn to a measure that has satisfactory general properties. The strongest contenders are the measures related to the area under the operating characteristic. They integrate both figuratively and literally the performance over the range of potential biases. They are also somewhat less dependent on the details of the Gaussian model than are the distributional parameters. For most other representations have the same area under the operating characteristic. I'm going to stop there.
I know that book. No, I don't. Okay. 5 and 7 said nothing, but looked at 2. 2 began in a low voice. Why, the fact is, you see, miss, here ought to have been a rose tree, a red rose tree, but we put a white one instead by white one in by mistake. I'm doing terrible. And if the queen was to find out, we should have our heads cut off, So you see, miss, we're doing our best. For she comes to, and at that moment, 5, who had been anxiously looking across the garden, called out, "The queen! The queen!" And the 3 gardeners instantly threw themselves flat upon their faces. There was a sound of many footsteps, and Alice looked around, eager to see the queen. And I gave it away. Go ahead, Bob.
Mine
War
was
and Peace, isn't it?
Yeah, mine was Americans Warned of Jesuitism, or The Jesuits Unveiled, by John Claudius Pirat, a member of the University of France, founder and ex-editor of the journal Le Prince du Peuple in Paris, and formerly a Romish priest. Jesuitism is a monstrous machine of destruction which, its spring being in Rome, its wheels everywhere, moves the world. The title was longer than what I read.
Holy moly.
From 1851, back when they knew how to write a damn title.
Yeah.
Wow.
But didn't know how to stop.
Didn't know how to end it.
Apparently. Yeah.
They didn't invent the period until much later.
Yes. About the same time they invented the 0. Now go ahead, Eve.
History's Greatest Deceptions and the People Who Planned Them by Eric Chalene.
Jaleel, which is a cool name. Jaleel.
I just got a message from Ani saying she guessed the book.
Hey.
Yes.
Barbara?
Elementary
Three.
Signal Detection Theory by Wickens.
I don't know who Thomas Wickens is, but the
Oh, he's
title is
wonderful.
intriguing, yes.
Author, statistics author.
Yep. Mine was obviously The Adventures in Wonderland, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. One of the two books that I read for last week, which was Banned Book Week, which I hope you guys all picked a banned book to read for Banned Book Week, because that was a banned book.
I
Okay,
read a
then.
book about a band. I totally misinterpreted that one.
Yes, that doesn't technically qualify.
Damn it.
And on that note, we're going to finally kill this. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for all the comments and contributions and all that stuff. I'm putting up the logo. I swear we're dancing. Gotta find my notes. I'm dancing. Virtual Skeptic is an independent production of the whatstheharm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Musicant and used with permission. Boba Fett. That's what it is, Boba Fett.
Boba Fett dancing.
Dancing. Is that your band?